Welcome to TheStreet.com TV. I'm Aaron Tash, joined by Mark DeCambre and Scott Moritz, two colleagues here at TheStreet.com. I'm the one with hair. We're here to talk about Motorola and the battle with Carl Icahn, what's happening there. And Mark, you had an interview last night with Carl Icahn. Give us a sense of, what's brought us to this point. Where are we at in this proxy war?
Well, we're having a war of words, basically, between Motorola, Ed Zander, and Carl Icahn. And he's steadfast. He wants a seat. He's pushing for a seat. However, it doesn't seem like he has a real plan of what to do with Motorola once he gets that seat. I think a lot of people view this bid as a pitch to shake up the company and for Carl to get a lot of cash as a result.
He owns 2.9% of the shares, is that right?
Yeah, he owns 2.9%.
And basically, Motorola is now saying he doesn't know enough about the company to deserve a seat, is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a kind of a bit of a frivolous argument because at the end of the day, he's a very savvy investor and he's proven himself over several decades. But it's very tech-intensive business, obviously. I was listening to Ed Zander's earnings call on the 18th. And basically, there's a lot of challenges that these guys are going to have to face.
All right, well, let me bring Scott in here there because you and I have talked before about the challenges that Ed Zander and Motorola faces. How did Motorola get to this point where now all of a sudden they're having to fight off Carl Icahn and have this public battle as opposed to dealing with their day-to-day business?
Right. Well, it's funny you bring that up. Motorola started at this point when they hired Ed Zander to begin with. They were at a bit of a decline. Their cell phones weren't selling as well, and they lost their number one spot to Nokia. A lot of disharmony in the company. They got rid of one of the founding family, the Galvin company, the Galvin member of the family, who was running the company, brought in Zander to kind of save the day. And it looked great for him for a while.
Right, because the Razor phones were just coming out,
exactly,
and he rode that wave for a while.
Right, so that masked all the apparent troubles with the company. Troubles like basic troubles like production and the supply chain, all that stuff they talk about to make a company more efficient. When the Razor started slipping in sales, suddenly those problems came back. So Zander's in a really tough spot because he was supposed to save the company, and now shareholders are of course unhappy about that, and he's lost his best product due to a fashion change. And now he's got this proxy battle.
Right.
With,
so that brings me to the question I think a lot of shareholders are asking right now. I got an email from Ken O'Brien. I don't think it's the former New York Jets quarterback, where he writes, "Is Motorola a good trade considering Carl Icahn's potential influence?" And Mark, as you note, Carl Icahn's obviously very successful in many other companies, and he was talking about all this yesterday on CNBC. Is this going to be a good thing for Motorola shareholders?
I mean, I think clearly when you have agitation from a major shareholder, it's always good to shake up management at some point.
Especially management that's struggling. Yeah.
Especially management that's struggling. I think Ed Zander views this as pretty much of a kind of an annoyance because he feels like he's, over the past 3 years or so, he feels like he's trying to take the company in the right direction. And I think he feels as if he's taking the company away from just being kind of recognized as a handheld phone company. Certainly, that's a big part of the business. But they also have, other chip manufacturing and other areas that they're really strong in. But at the end of the day, with a guy like Icahn in place, shaking things up, it's going to ultimately benefit the company as a whole because they're going to be very focused on squeezing out additional profits.
Okay, Scott, I'll give you the last word. You followed Motorola for a long time.
Yeah, well, the wind is really at the back of a cell phone maker. Everybody has a cell phone, or everyone's going to buy a new one in the next 3 years or so.
But aren't they all going to buy the iPhone?
Well, the iPhone will take maybe a small share of that business. But, really Motorola just needs to get a couple really hot phones out, and their troubles will once again hide until the phones become unpopular again. But there is a good chance that Motorola emerges from this, especially with this pressure from an Icahn to turn it around quicker.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. For Mark DeCambre and Scott Moritz, I'm Aaron Task. Stay tuned for more of TheStreet.com TV.